Don't throw this out. It says it's recyclable, and it is, but you can turn this trash into treasure. So this is a coffee container. It is paper, kind of has a plastic coating, and it replaced the tin can, which I loved to decoupage. And I assumed that I couldn't decoupage this. But then I thought, you know what? Let's give it a try. So it is kind of plasticky. It's mainly paper. It's not going to last forever. But I thought because I have so many of them, it would be nice to be able to store things either in my craft room or in my pantry. So I thought, okay, let's give this a coat of gesso and see what happens. It's either going to stick or it's not. So let's experiment instead of assuming that it wouldn't work. So I gave it a coat and it stuck. Now, I did not sand it or do anything like that to prep the surface because, well, I'm kind of a minimalist and I don't like wasting my time. So I am giving this a couple coats of gesso. I want it lighter because I am going to cover this with, in this case, today's video, a napkin. I'm using the heat tool to dry in between layers because it's not metal, it's not going to get hot, and it's not plastic. I got this dog's happiness napkin from Ninny's Napkin. Now, I'm not a dog owner, but I thought, wouldn't it be cute to put this on this container and then store dog treats in it? Now, again, you can store whatever you want in your container. I'm just going to give you a couple of ideas. And I will be doing another one of these containers showing different techniques, different steps to give you ideas. I want to spurn you on to. But I think this would be great because if you had a lot of these, which I do, you go through coffee constantly. So it's kind of a renewable resource. Let's get back to the video. I am deciding to cut the napkin in exactly half, but that leaves a little bit of room on the top and the bottom. So I am just using a makeup sponge here and I'm painting it brown to match the napkin. So I'm going to have a brown border at the top, goes with the cover that I'm not going to paint. It's kind of a dark blacky brown. And doing the same at the bottom. Now, I didn't measure this. I am simply eyeballing it roughly about where it is, but you could take a ruler, make a line, and be very precise if that is how you operate. So there we have it. I'm loving the look of this. So now I'm getting ready to decoupage the napkin down, and I notice that because my napkin is white, the inner spaces is white, I can still see that text coming through. And I didn't like that. If my napkin was dark, I wouldn't need to put another coat of gesso. But because my napkin is white, so light colored, and I don't want to see the text, I'm putting another coat of gesso just to get rid of that text. So depending on what you're using, what napkin, is how many coats of gesso you need to put. Now that that's dry, I'm going to put a coat of matte medium and I'm working section by section. I'm doing a little bit at a time. Don't try to put the matte medium around the whole bin. You're just going to cause yourself some grief. So I'm doing, about a 5 inches, 4 inches. Now I'm using a piece of saran wrap to spread it down. You can very carefully do it with your fingers as well. And then I'm going to do the next section, working my way around the container, bringing the napkin forward 4 inches, 5 inches at a time. Whatever is your comfort zone. If it's getting all tangled and mixed up, then you might want to do a smaller section. Now, there are a little bit of wrinkles here. I don't mind those wrinkles. I think it adds to the whole overall look. And again, because this isn't going to be a permanent thing, it's going to be relatively short-lived because it is paper at the end. So at some point in time, the lid might break off or it's going to get wrecked, depending on what you use it for. But I really like the idea of having these containers using the same napkin and then it's stored in your pantry or in your art room. You can put a label on it and they're all the same size. I like that because this is a renewable resource. Now, this is a coffee container. There is hot chocolate containers that are the same size or smaller. So when you're shopping and you're buying products, this seems to be the way that they're moving away from the tin to these kind of recyclable containers. We can repurpose them. Now for the lid, I did paint it brown, and then I'm taking a napkin. This is the excess layer of that same napkin, and I'm squishing it down. And that's going to cover this up. It's also going to give texture to the lid. Now, the rim of the lid, I didn't want to get into painting that because I thought that would chip off. So you'll see the lid later. And then I grab my fine line applicator bottle. This is white paint that has been thinned to go into the bottle. And then I'm just making a faux stitching around it. I think that's a fun addition to this. And it kind of hides some of the imperfections where I didn't measure exactly how big that brown area was. After this container, I do show how I do another container. And again, there are some slight differences to give you an idea. I do something in a different way, end up in a different place, just to give you options. Now, I'm using a napkin here. You could use rice paper. You could use um, collage papers that you've made yourself to cover these. And you could do a whole matched set. Here I'm painting this brown just to make it match the rim of it. You kind of have to work with what you've got. And so having brown might be. And then I did a Tim Holtz Crazy Dog and a saying, dogs are not our whole life, but they make our life whole. And there is the finished project. I gifted this to someone so they can put their dog treats in it. It can sit on the counter and it's decorative. I think it's a great use of something that was going in the trash. So here I'm doing another one. And this napkin, it's an all over pattern. So this one, I don't need that extra couple coats of gesso because you can't see the text. Now, on this, instead of cutting the napkin in half, I want to cover the entire side. And this container is a little bit bigger than half. So this is going to use up more napkin. I did try to paint the top and the bottom blue, but I couldn't get the exact blue and I didn't like the look of it, so I decided to go this way and use up more napkin. Now I'm going around and around, just like I did with the other one. That's why I've sped this up. No sense in repeating myself. Section by section, use the saran wrap to smooth it down. Now at the end, I do put a coat of matte medium on top of the napkin, and I sealed it with Minwax polyacrylic varnish. If you're putting food in there, you might want to make sure you use a food safe product. Now, this is not going to be an airtight container, but you can put something that you want in there in a Ziploc bag, and then it's in that container. It didn't quite meet the edge, so instead of cutting and having a hard edge, I'm using a liner brush with water, and I'm just water cutting the edge. This is giving me a deckled edge, which is more going to disappear. It's not going to be perfect, but close. And I made sure that that hit on a corner instead of in the middle. So instead of cutting off the excess with a file, I decided to just wrap it around and I'm using the matte medium on the brush and just sticking it to the bottom. Again, I'm going for simple. Just wrapping it around and pushing it in. As I was saying, you could put the Ziploc inside, put nuts, pasta, cereal, cookies, what have you. This would also make a fun gift box. You could use colored tissue paper that you buy at the Dollar Tree, some beautiful patterns, and cover it. They would be big sheets. The purpose of this video is to say, hey, don't assume like I did that these aren't usable, that you can't decoupage on them, that the gesso or paint won't stick, because it does. So now, instead of throwing these out, I am going to save them and use my napkin stash or my collage paper stash and have more storage bins that are just functional. So this one, I just gessoed the top. And here I'm just putting some matte medium, and I'm going to use another part of that napkin and put it inside. So again, slight difference with the other one, but hopefully giving you some ideas. Hopefully you have even better ideas. This could hold your mark makers, or uh, it could hold all those lids that I use as templates. And it looks nice now. You've made it look pretty. And when it wears out, throw it away and do another one. Here I'm taking it now and I'm splattering. Yellow or gold, those go really well with that blue, and I just wanted to splatter it. So I hope you give this a try. It's fast, it's easy, it's inexpensive to do. Add some storage containers. Here I'm shading across the top and bottom just to frame it. And I'm just using black acrylic paint, my angle brush. The napkin at this point has been sealed with a coat of Mod Podge or matte medium across the top. I don't like the smell of Mod Podge, so I typically don't use it. This just finishes it off. And then I did grab my fine line applicator. I had splattered with gold, so here I'm using gold paint in my fine line applicator and just doing that faux stitching around the edge. Just a little bit of detail. You could grab a stencil and stencil on that if you wanted to. And there is the finished bin. So look for these containers, take them out of the recycle bin, and turn that trash into treasure. Until next time, go get creative.